UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson and US President Joe Biden are all set to meet on their first one-on-one meeting in Cornwall in the UK this evening. In fact, in a short while from now, the meeting comes just ahead of the G7 summit, which begins tomorrow. The highlight of the meeting is intended to be a new pact, and this pact is a modern version of the 1941 Atlantic Charter signed by Winston Churchill and Franklin D. Roosevelt. Under the new pact, the two nations are expected to commit to resume UK to US travel, boost trade, tech ties, and even plan a recovery from the pandemic. Other challenges, such as threats posed by cyber attacks, action on climate change, will also be part of this wide-ranging pact.
I'm going to be clear that the transatlantic alliance will remain vital, a vital source of strength for the UK, Europe, and the United States. I'm going to make sure there's no doubt as whether the United States will rise in defense of our most deeply held values and our fundamental interests.
However, discussions around current travel ties between the two nations are likely to feature prominently during these talks. The UK still does not feature on the US's list of recommended nations given the spread of the highly infectious Delta variant that is currently being found in the country. The two leaders will seek to ease COVID-19 travel restrictions as part of a wide-ranging Atlantic Charter. The contentious issue of Northern Ireland is also expected to feature when the two leaders talk. Biden has reportedly taken an exception to Johnson's handling of Brexit and its effects on the Northern Ireland peace process. According to British media reports, the Biden administration has accused the UK government of inflaming tensions in Ireland and Europe with its opposition to checks at ports in the province. In a statement released by the State Department in the US, it has now vowed to encourage both sides to prioritize economic and political stability in Northern Ireland. Let's now go across to New York, from where our correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us for the latest. Susan, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start by talking about this new pact that will form the focus of the meeting between Biden and Johnson. Tell us more about the same.
Yeah, so they are going to obviously talk about a number of issues, which is COVID, growing tensions over Northern Ireland, as you mentioned, and this new Atlantic Charter, which is a nod to the joint statement made by Prime Minister Winston Churchill and President Franklin Roosevelt back in 1941 when they set out their post-World War II vision. And this time it will focus on pandemic recovery, climate change, trade, and security. They've also, as you mentioned, they set up this task force aimed at opening UK-US travel, although the time hasn't been set up on when that's going to happen. And also, you know, there's going to be some complex arrangements between the European Union and the UK, and the United States will definitely take part in to manage this trade and try to preserve peace after Brexit with Northern Ireland. And it'll be interesting to see how these discussions will move forward between Biden and Prime Minister Johnson, considering the fact that President Biden, even before his trip, has mentioned that he is a devout Irish Catholic. So that's one segment of it. And another segment, I think, on a side note, it's interesting to note that Boris Johnson didn't like the fact, notably with President Biden in office, he did enjoy very close relations with President Trump, because Trump was really pro-Brexit, and they just sort of had this flowery personality, for lack of a better word, that they sort of matched in that sense. He didn't like how this administration, or his conversation on the phone prior to this visit with Biden, focused on the quote-unquote special relationship, and he didn't like that term being used because he felt that Britain is sort of at a disadvantage and is considered weak when the term special relationship is used. So that sort of sets the stage. So that was sort of an interesting side note to point out before this meeting.
Right. Now, Susan, the US president's Europe tour, of course, comes at a critical time. Experts say that Biden is trying to revive the US alliance with Europe, especially after tensions were seen during the Trump administration. What does the US expect to achieve from the G7 and other meetings?
So the United States really has focused this trip around what the White House calls foreign policy for America's middle class. And that's interesting to note because while, it's really gone all out to say that America's back at the world stage and it embraces multilateralism, it ultimately comes down to America's interests. And European allies will be watching very closely to see to what extent this foreign policy approach by President Biden is going to differ from Donald Trump's America First policy, which was basically saying that don't worry about it. It is America first. America can do it on its own, and we don't need anyone else. Whereas Biden is going to these countries to try to gain and persuade alliances to accompany the United States in reaching its interests, which a lot of them are the same. You have the threat of China, you have Russia, which both sides definitely agree is a threat, and you also have issues regarding security and trade, and right now COVID is a big deal as well. We also know that Mr. Biden will also talk about a global effort to combat the coronavirus and will announce plans to donate about 500 million vaccine doses produced by Pfizer to 92 lower income countries and the African Union later today, which is on Thursday. So that's going to be sort of a main discussion, not only in England, but between EU countries as well.
Right, Susan, thank you so much for joining us from New York at this hour. We'll of course come to you for more updates when the summit gets underway.